Welcome, everyone. Today we continue our series of programming entitled League of Women Voter Empowering You, a program designed by the League of Women Voters in partnership with Dayton Access TV to provide unbiased, nonpartisan information on issues that are relevant to our friends and our neighbors throughout the greater Dayton area. My name is David Bodary. I am a member of the League of Women Voters, and I'll be your host tonight for this program as we focus on voter services and engagement. Our guests tonight are Jo Lovelace Hill, the VP of Voter Services for the Greater Dayton League of Women Voters, and Kenneth, or Kenny, Henning, Southwest Ohio Regional Representative for the Office of the Ohio Secretary of State. I welcome you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us here tonight.
It's an important year for the League, as it was 100 years ago that many women in Ohio and across our nation gained the right to have their voice heard by way of the vote. Of course, many of those early suffragists formed the League of Women Voters in order to ensure their rights and to help inform others about their voting opportunities. So if we could, I'd like to begin with Jo, recognizing that it's the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters existence, but also the 100th anniversary of the right to vote for women. You are involved with voter services. Can you tell us about what does that involve?
What we do, David, and I like that question. We register new citizens at the naturalization ceremonies. We also register at the libraries. We partner with Dayton Metro Library, where we stuffed 2,021 boxes with registrations and absentee ballots for the kids that they was given for food.
Okay.
We also register at it's called the Contemporary. It's a visual arts center. We register there. But we go anywhere where it's nonpartisan to register voters. And we are very happy to do that.
Right. And so in order to become a registered voter, what does a person need?
A person needs to have to be 18 years of age or older, or they have to be 18 by the election day.
Yeah.
A person must be a U.S. citizen. They must not be incarcerated with a felony. And I want to go a little further with that, and I always have to read this card to ensure that I give the information correctly. You can register if you have been convicted of a misdemeanor. You have the right to vote even if you're incarcerated. If you have been arrested for a felony but have not been convicted, you can still register to vote. The only time you may not vote if you are currently incarcerated on a felony conviction. But once released, you can re-register and you gain your right back to vote.
I appreciate you clarifying that, because I think sometimes we have these assumptions about who can or can't vote without a clear understanding.
Right.
So I appreciate you got your notes with you.
I do. And I want to add, David, if
Yeah.
you're in a halfway house or you're on probation or parole, you can still vote.
Yeah. And so then you really just need to make sure that you're registered to vote.
Registered, yes.
And that in some cases you may have to update that registration
Right.
if your residence
Especially if you moved.
changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
And of course the Secretary of State's office, which is your main role, is involved in all of that as well.
Yes.
And the pandemic has presented some pretty difficult challenges for the Office of Secretary of State. What are some of the things that you're encountering as it relates to maybe the pandemic challenges?
Challenges is a good word for what we've experienced in 2020. And I do want to say, having Jo and Susan and Sandy and yourself as partners with the League of Women Voters has been so helpful for the year and a half that our administration has been in office. So we really appreciate that. You said naturalization ceremonies, and this is so cool. We were at Dayton Children's today for a voter registration drive, and two individuals who work at Dayton Children's came up to me, and the gentleman had a picture on his phone of me at the naturalization ceremony.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that was probably like one of my favorite experiences.
Yes.
Being a part of this team and then having someone remember me for that, because they remembered getting registered to vote at the ceremony. And so that was really nice today. We also, in regards to access and challenges that our office has done, we've really worked hard to create civic partnerships with, we did Kroger's stores for the spring primary election. We had voter registration and voter absentee ballot requests there. We've renewed that partnership for this general election. So we're getting the absentee requests and voter registration forms at Kroger's, and a press release went out last week that all Kroger's in Ohio have the forms at their service desks.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and we do have other grocery stores in my region that I have 14 counties. I have IGAs and other supermarkets that have wanted to get involved. They reach out to us, and we make sure they have the correct information.
Right.
We also, another thing Joe and I did was the Raise a Glass for
Yes.
Democracy. We were at a local brewery here in Dayton, and that gives individuals an opportunity to scan a QR code on a beer glass or the posters that directs them how to register online.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that our office has had a lot of fun doing. We've had over 50 breweries around the state participate. We've started the Styling for Democracy, in which we encourage salons and barbers around the state to hang these up and help us find poll workers and get individuals registered to vote. We have been around the state using our Voting in Ohio is Easy as 1, 2, 3 cards. We have these in a larger poster we put up everywhere. And Joe and everyone helps us with that endeavor also. So we've really had to change how we do outreach in 2020, just because the typical ways of doing it in large gatherings of people,
Right, I
et
was
cetera,
thinking
has
all the
changed.
summer kinds of fairs that we would
Yeah,
typically go
exactly.
to, and there would be a table with the league, or there'd be tables where you
Yes.
could do that.
So we've really changed it, and I mean, literature, social media, just getting the information out to Ohioans so they know how to register, they know how to request their absentee ballots has been a top goal of our administrations this year.
So let me make sure that I understand, because what you're saying is you could simply register online.
If you're updating registration.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So does that mean then that if I'm registering for the first time, I would need to have those other forms of documentation, be it
And you'd have-
utility bill or
Exactly,
something?
and if you're doing it online, you'd have to have your driver's license
Okay,
and the last 4 of your social.
okay.
Yeah.
But I could do it that way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if I renew, is that the right term?
If you've moved, or, I mean, if you are registering online, you have to have all the correct information
Yes.
that's on there, yeah.
Yep.
And the form is really easy to walk through. You can go to voteohio.gov, and the link takes you right through that in regards to registering to vote online.
Perfect. Voteohio.gov.
Yes.
Good. And then you also said, though, that Kroger and a number of other grocery stores also have the application to become a registered voter right there at
the service desk.
service desk.
Yeah.
So
and we do also have some Walmarts. I mean, there are quite a few other stores. The Ohio Grocery, the Ohio Grocery Partners, they partnered with us.
yeah, that's
yeah.
perfect. That's great. I mean, everybody needs to eat, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
So I love it. And then the QR codes, that was just a program that you happened to be running at
Correct.
that brewery.
Correct, and I mean that's on the Raise a Glass for Democracy, the styling, all of the communication outreaches that we're doing.
Yeah.
The Styling for Democracy, the QR codes are just right on the poster, and once someone scans that with the camera on their phone, they'll be directed to the page, either sign up to be a poll worker or register to vote.
Perfect.
And then recently we've had the PSA start that the Ohio Broadcast Association started with us, and you may see those on channels 7, 12, et cetera, in regards to getting Ohioans to register to vote or update their information by October 5th.
I was going to say that date, that important date,
Right.
right? If you want to vote in the November election, which is the presidential election, then October 5th is the important date to remember. Now, that doesn't mean that if you are trying to become registered to vote and it's past October 5th, that you can't still register. You just won't be able to register for this particular election.
Correct.
But as a voter, you want to vote in every election, right? So
Yes.
get registered right away and then be ready to vote when you have that opportunity. So, Joe, you were out in the public, right, doing opportunities, be it with new citizens or maybe at the libraries, things like that. Are you doing anything to ensure your own safety or other safety as it relates to just the COVID? Because, of
Right.
course, we're all dealing with that.
Right, we all wear a mask, and sometimes we have gloves on, and we call them a throwaway pen, but what
Oh, yeah.
we do is if you don't have your own pen, we'll give you one that has the lead's name on it, and you can keep it.
Perfect.
And we also have sanitizer for ourselves and also for the person who comes to register.
Okay.
Right.
So that we
And
keep people
we
safe.
do a little social distancing because we have a table
Sure.
that's between us and the person who's registering.
What are the kinds of questions that people are asking you?
People ask me, is it safe to vote with the absentee ballot? And we tell them yes. And a lot of people want to know, should I mail it or should I bring it to the Board of Election office? And we tell them they can do either one. But if you want to actually put it in the Board of Elections' hand, then take it to the election office at the box and drop it off.
Right.
And it's safe, and it's also it's okay for you to do that for yourself and your immediate family.
All right. And I don't know to what extent you'll be familiar with that, but what are we defining by immediate family?
The Montgomery County Board of Elections has done a tremendous job on their social media posting who can return a ballot. And it's a spouse, mother, father, anyone that resides in the same household.
Sure.
But all of that has been posted on Montgomery County's Facebook page and all the other counties in regards to who can return a ballot. Because here in Ohio, I couldn't return your ballot for you. A lot of individuals think they can take their ballot to a polling location on Election Day and give it to someone working at the polls. That the PEOs there, the poll workers, can't take ballots on Election Day. At that point, they'd have to be returned to the Board of Elections. And the drop box is just on the west side of the building this year. It's actually moved. It was on 3rd Street, and it's moved to the west side of the building on Vista View Drive.
Yes.
And they have it set up really nice for the flow of traffic to go in and out. And that's where ballots, if they're not postmarked by November 2nd, can be dropped off on Election Day.
Right. So let's make sure we're clear on that. If you're going to drop it off at the Board of Elections and you live in Montgomery County, so then you would drive down West 3rd and turn onto Vista View, and then there's literally, it looks like a mailbox, but it's clearly labeled as the Board of Elections drop box for those ballots.
Correct. And I mean, it's monitored. These are secure drop boxes
Right.
that all the counties have. It's securely monitored. There's lights on it. And individuals should feel safe dropping off their ballots or voter absentee ballot requests there, because bipartisan teams from the Board of Elections are going to retrieve those ballots. Just like everything is done at the Board of Elections in a bipartisan way, same applies to going and getting the ballots from the drop box.
So let me make sure that when you say that, what you're saying is that when they go to empty whatever ballots have been dropped off and they go to pick it up, it'll be a Republican representative and a Democrat who go together and pick it up out of that ballot box. Or out of that,
They go
that
to empty
drop
the
box.
bin. Just like a lot of individuals aren't aware how everything is done in such bipartisan unity at a
Right.
Board of Elections. I know the secretary jokes that you can't usually tell who is a Republican and who's a Democrat inside the Board of Elections because the hats really do come off at the door. And these individuals have to do everything in a bipartisan manner. The doors where the ballots are securely kept are double lock and key with a Republican key and a Democrat key. Tabulation rooms are double locked with a Democrat key and a Republican key. And that's just something that we've worked really hard on in regards to outreach to make the public feel confident that Ohio's boards of elections really do things right, and there's no tip of the scale inside of our boards of elections.
And so that's really part of the role of Secretary of State office, is not just the access, the opportunity to vote, but then the security of that vote. And so you've moved us forward in terms of talking about that. I appreciate that. The other thing that I think people don't understand is that in terms of cybersecurity, there's lots of preconceived ideas of how the vote moves around, or how the choices that people have made through the ballot get moved around. And I was surprised to learn that we're not emailing or electronically sending off this information, are we?
Correct. And you know, in 2019, in June of 2019, the Secretary LaRose issued a 34-point bullet checkpoint known as our security directive that had to be completely implemented at all 88 county boards of elections by January 31st of 2020. And all boards of elections are compliant in regards to that. And of the directive, we really had an emphasis on physical security at boards of elections, background checks and security trainings for all boards of election staff or individuals that are doing work inside of a board of elections. Websites and email addresses had to be switched to .gov domains to help residents believe that the information they're getting is from a legitimate government source. And then also the counties were all given a cyber attack defense system that's helped. It helps counties understand if some entity is trying to get into their systems at the Board of Elections. It would give them a detection, just like you have a home alarm if someone tries to get in a door or whatever. It works just like that. So it's their security systems on the systems they have in place. And I know you were just saying too about in regards to ballots moving around the BOE, you know, that is all done in a bipartisan way. And a question that we get all the time, and I was just on a Zoom with the secretary 20 minutes ago, he was stating that a question that we still get is, and this is misinformation that's on social media, is that there's R or D labels on absentee ballot envelopes that are sent back to the boards of elections. Here in Ohio, for general elections, that's not the case. So if an individual hasn't voted by absentee ballot before, you take your absentee ballot and you put it inside an envelope where you put all the information that's listed, and then you put that envelope inside of an envelope, and that's what's sent to your county board of elections. So no one can see your personal information that's needed to make sure your ballot is all proper. And the fact that that's on social media, that the post office employees can tell what type of ballot is being sent, is just ludicrous, because that's not been the case here in Ohio.
Right, and it's misleading, and unfortunately leads people to then question. And everything I've learned from Frank LaRose himself when we were able to interview him, and we saw him earlier in the year, is that our system in Ohio is pretty far ahead of even other states, in that we've got a mail-in absentee option that even despite the pandemic, where other states are struggling to figure out how are we going to do this, Ohio is ready to go.
Yeah,
Can you tell us more about the mail-in process?
Yeah, Ohio's had this system in place for a long time. Ohio does it right. In regards to the cybersecurity directive we just discussed, other states want to replicate the cybersecurity directive we just implemented. I mean, Ohio really is a leader in regards to elections. And for mail-in ballots, you know, something we really are asking all individuals that are voting by absentee is that you make sure all the information on the ballot application is correct. If you follow through this and go line by line and number by number, and you can get these off voteohio.gov if you haven't received or sent in an absentee ballot request, make sure all the information is correct on this. Absentee ballots begin being sent out to individuals who have requested a ballot October 6th. So next Tuesday, the first batch of absentee ballots will go out. In Montgomery County, there's already been 83,000 requests. I think I got a text actually that said they hit over 84. So there's 84,000 ballots that'll be going out next Tuesday, probably more. And then once you get those in the mail, it's really important that all the information on the envelope that your ballot goes into is also correctly filled out, the signatures on there, the date, all the information that's requested on that envelope has to be completed, just like how you had to complete all the information on your absentee ballot application.
And so make sure that I understand correctly. So I'll take my ballot and I'll complete the information on my ballot, and then I'll put it inside an envelope. Is that right?
Correct.
And that's the envelope that I'll sign, and that signature would need to match then the signature that the Board of Elections has.
Correct.
To ensure that there's a match.
Correct. Yeah, and you know, that's a great point. You know, the safety of voting absentee in Ohio is just great because there is so much proving of an identity. There's signature verifications, address verification, everything that's in place in Ohio really makes absentee voting safe. And that's something that Ohio really is a leader at. The one thing I would say is pay attention to your county boards of election social media pages. I know that there are inserts that are being sent out with the absentee ballots in regards to how much postage will be to send it back.
Right.
In the 14 counties I represent for the secretary, there are 2-page ballots where the postage will be 70 cents. And then there are ones where it's just one-page ballots. So really pay attention to the postage on that.
And if I understand that correctly, so what I would pay if I live in Brookville might be different than what I pay if I live in Kettering or what I would pay if I live in Springboro. right?
Potentially, correct.
Because we've got different counties. Well, I don't know if that's different counties.
In municipalities,
Different
Or
even
different
municipalities.
municipalities, yeah.
putting charter amendments on. Sometimes
Sure.
in a federal election, a municipality will add a whole bunch of charter amendments. And that all, I mean, that could potentially increase the size of the ballot in regards to pages on there.
Which changes the amount that the U.S. Postal Service would require. So we
Correct.
need to just check to make sure.
For sure, and all that information is on the inserts.
Okay,
They
and
go
it is
out.
clearly labeled how much postage is
Correct,
needed.
yes.
Okay, beautiful. And of course, that then means that I can either just put 2 stamps on if it's more than the 50, is it 55?
55.
55
Yes.
cents? Yeah, or if it's 55, I just put 1 stamp on, because that's what the stamp is currently covering.
Correct.
All
Or you
right.
can drop it off.
Or,
Or-
thank you,
Yes.
Joe, I can drop it off, and
Yes.
that's off of 3rd Street, Vista.
Yes,
So-
correct. And you know, I know on the secretary's mailers that our office sent out after Labor Day, some people got it the week before, it stated on there that we encouraged Ohioans to make their absentee ballot requests, to send them off to the Board of Elections by October 27th. I have some boards of elections that are really encouraging residents to do it by October 19th, just to ensure that that voter has time to get the ballot and return it. Any ballot that is mailed has to be postmarked by November 2nd. So we can go over the dates a little bit later, but it's just really important to give a voter enough time. And then once you get your ballot, like Joe said, either return it at the county dropbox or get it back in the mail right away. Don't get your ballot and sit on it and wait, do your research, find out what candidates you want to vote for, and get the ballot back.
Well, let's take a minute to think about that research. You know, the league provides the voter guide as a way to help people to do that research. It's my understanding that the voter guide by the League of Women Voters will be available,
October 1st.
October 1st?
Yes.
And they
You'll be
will
in the
find
Dayton
them.
Daily News.
I was going to say, they're going to find them in the Dayton Daily.
Yes.
Where else can we look for
And you
them?
can find them in different local newspapers like Yellow Springs. You can also find them at the public libraries, the Dayton Registrar's Office. You can find them also in high schools and in vocational schools. You can always come to the league office.
Right.
So we will have some.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if you don't want the physical copy, you could go online.
You can go online.
And just
under-
go to the website,
website.
and find the League of Women
Right.
Voter Guide available on the website.
Right.
And of course, vote411.org is another resource, and I looked at that just the other day. I plugged in my address, and then it sent me a list of what are the issues and what are my choices as a resident in the particular area
Right.
that I live. So that's awesome to be able to make sure we're on top of as well.
And then in regards to monitoring absentee ballots on the Secretary's site, if you just Google Ohio Absentee Ballot Tracker, the first thing that comes up is the Ohio Absentee Ballot Tracker that's on our website, and it has the state of Ohio with all 88 counties. An individual can select what county they live in, type in their information, and it'll show that the County Board of Elections has received the absentee request. It'll put on there what date the absentee ballot was sent out, and then it'll put on there what date the absentee ballot was returned. So we're really encouraging Ohioans to use the absentee ballot tracker.
So I got to get this straight, because this sounds pretty cool. So then I have sent my absentee ballot request in. I could go to that website, track it, and it's going to tell me, okay, it's going to be sent to me October 6th. I receive it, and then I fill it out, and I would be able to put it back in the mail and track it back until it gets to my Montgomery County Board of Elections
Correct.
through
Or
the
if
mail.
you drop it off at the Dropbox, there'll be the date as to when they receive the ballot. So that's another helpful tool to.
That's really cool. I mean, we're familiar with that with our packages.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is you can do the same thing now with your ballot.
Correct. Yes.
That's very cool. Using technology in a
Yes.
positive way. We've only got a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure that we get to any other questions that you hear people asking, if there's anything else that you think of.
I can't think of any questions now, but I do want to make a statement that people should have a plan. You should either decide to vote in person at the poll, or you can do early voting, or you can do absentee ballots. But you need to have a plan.
Good, I appreciate that. And in terms of polling locations, we talked when Frank LaRose was here last time about some of the safety measures taken there. Are there any changes to the protocol anticipated that you're aware of, Kenny?
The health guidance we've issued is something we've worked really hard with the boards of elections on, and I've had calls today with our boards of elections to make sure that they have sanitizing wipes or they know to get them. We've partnered with an entity that has helped get hand sanitizer to the boards of elections. There was an Ohio company up near Cleveland that donated face masks for individuals that are working the polls, so the counties have received that. And then the Secretary's office has also taken the CARES funds that he's received and distributed it to the 88 county boards of elections. So they've worked really hard to help get PPE and items that they need for Election Day.
Absolutely. Any other messages that you, in our last couple minutes?
Yeah, the one thing I really would like to discuss is just dates. October 5th at 9 p.m. is the deadline to register to vote. So I'll be at, next Monday, I'll be at a Board of Elections until 9 p.m. with the team, making sure that all the voter registrations that are in for this November are in. And then early voting begins at 8 a.m. on October 6th. So the week of October 6th, so next week, starting Tuesday, to run 8 to 5 p.m. on October 12th through the 16th, 8 to 5 p.m. on October 19th through the 23rd, 8 to 6 p.m. on October 26th through the 30th, 8 to 7 p.m. October 24th, a Saturday, and the 25th, it would run 8 to 4 on Saturday, 1 to 5 on Sunday, and then the following weekend on the 31st of October, 8 to 4 p.m. that Sunday before Election Day, 1 to 5, and then early voting wraps up. Early in-person voting wraps up on Election Day, or on November 2nd, the day before Election Day.
Yes, thank you.
At 2 p.m. So it's open from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then we really are encouraging everyone, if they have their absentee ballot, please make sure it's postmarked by November 2nd. Otherwise, take it down to your Board of Elections. And then we will have in-person voting on Election Day, November 3rd, from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So we are going to be pretty busy over the next few weeks as we have ample time to early vote. Our boards of elections teams are going to be working very hard, extended hours. And like Joe said, it's really about making that plan. There is so much time to vote early.
Yes.
If you're not comfortable doing it by absentee, make sure you get to the Board of Elections to vote.
Perfect. So I want to thank both of our guests, Jo Lovelace Hill, Vice President of Voter Services for the Greater Dayton League of Women Voters.
Thank you.
Kenny Henning, Kenneth officially, but Kenny, Southwest Regional Liaison for the Office of the Ohio Secretary of State. Thank you so much for being here. And thank our viewers as well for watching the League of Women Voters Empowering You. The League of Women Voters encourages everyone to be a voter by being registered to vote, as we've talked about tonight, being active and voting in every election. And if you have any further questions about how to register or how to vote in our upcoming or any ideas for our upcoming programs, you can contact the League by emailing league@lwvdayton.org, or you can call the office at 937-228-4041. Stay safe, be well, be a voter in every election. Thank you so much.